title of my presentation is Laminated Light, and what I'm trying to do is develop luminance and architecture through regional laminated timber. And what I wanted to start off with was these three frames and what this is all about. These are the world's clouds. And so these are from NASA, and I photoshopped out the geography, the land behind them, to really emphasize the different cloud layers throughout the world. And this is Asia, and then as it moves into South Africa with the Cape down here, and then the Congo, you can see all the clouds and the precipitation. And then moving into our frame of the world, which this is North America, and this is our area right here. And you can see the jet stream pushing in the cloud systems from the west coming across here. And really what that's all about is the point that 36% of light, only 36% of light hits the surface of the Earth. So the rest, the 64%, is actually filtered through different cloud layers throughout the world at all times, every single day. So that's roughly about a third. There's three frames there. We're in that third of the world. But roughly only a third of the light comes down and hits the Earth. And so really it's an emphasis of what are these cloud systems doing. And our area of the world, this is the west coast of North America, of the United States. In our area, really is impacted by these different cloud systems. This is them coming in from the west and then backing up, I guess, the Cascades. You can actually just see the line of them backing up. And the area where my project is up here in Bellingham, Washington. So this is coming in from the west. The statistics on it and the facts of clouds in Bellingham, historically dating back to 1974, is that, again, a third of the year in Bellingham as well is clear skies. So 2/3 of the year is this cloudy mix of different mid, low, and high-level cloud systems. And so this is looking out over Bellingham Bay. This is in a late summer. You can see actually a line coming down. It's late afternoon in the summer. It typically has a high azimuthal angle coming across. This is in the winter time. These are nimbostratus clouds, really low light, kind of darker clouds that are layered up, really filtering the light down. And this is the sunset looking across Bellingham Bay in the fall. And so the question that I posed was, how do we experience these clouds? Since our area of the world is impacted so much by these cloud systems, how does the built environment adjust its systems to this? And this is the traditional window. And I started questioning how that traditional window really is built, how it came about, and how the possibilities of it can be altered, and how we can alter our framing of these clouds. This quote by Finn, a Norwegian architect, which has a lot of cloud systems up there too, is, "Each material has its own shadow. The shadow penetrates the material and radiates its message." And really that was about looking at the material systems and how we use light framing and what we could do with that and more. And the solution that I found was in cross-laminated timber. It has a whole list of positives about it. Prefabrication, zero site waste, renewable energy. But the main aspect that I found was how when you prefabricate it, you can adjust these different openings in the cross-laminated timber and come up with just infinite amount of openings that really cause zero waste and a whole new experience to the interior lighting. So the process of it is you take a minimum of 3 piles, laminate them together, plies, and what that does is it's isotropic, so it creates, the grain goes this way, but then when you cross-laminate it in 2 different directions, this strengthens the material. And classically what they do now with the CLT is they take CNC and they drill it out to create these openings. This is what they're doing right now. This is an example in Scotland where really was posing the need for what they were going to do with all this excessive studs, this excessive timber that they had, and how to reuse that waste. And so what they did is they started cross-laminating these pieces of wood together and start building these structures. And so this is a multi-use building, 3 stories, similar situation to mine, and they CNC'd out these openings and then prefab and then put it together. So what I'm proposing theoretically is that you scan all these pieces of lumber in, and then instead of a subtractive process, you use a laminated process and use each individual member that's laminated together to create the opening, and then you laminate all the sheets together, making it a zero waste process. And so what that does again is that you can create these different hole configurations endlessly, and it's still efficient. Laminated together. And so this is a map of Bellingham, Washington, which is from the origins of the town. And when it first started, it was established because there was a water-powered sawmill right here. And so this whole area was established on a logging grid. And it was a reaction to the lumber industry in San Francisco needing the fires down there and needing the lumber. And this is the site. And so this logging grid is oriented almost at this 45-degree angle, as well as the different sun angles that act on that. These are the sun angles, what I'm calling the urban condition, because when you're in this kind of situation, there's always buildings around it, and the sun angle is getting direct light in right when it comes over the horizon. It doesn't come into the building because it's blocked. And so I offset those angles 15 degrees. This is coming from the west, again, just showing off the bay. It's kind of a microclimate here, where the major systems come in from the jet stream, come across, and then it swoops across the bay up into the town. And so focusing more in on where my site is, and here's some closer up maps over there. It's on the corner. This is a main avenue, DuPont Street, and then J Street is this minor street that goes into this residential area. And this is the head of the school system, and then this kind of goes into a fire department. And so it's on the edge of a main street, and then kind of the services.
So that's the administrative offices.
Administrative offices, yeah, yeah.
The Bellingham School District.
Yeah, right across the street. And that's a 3-story building. And so looking at the development of the site, here's the main street again, DuPont, and how the light developed the programming. I started looking at the sun, and the orientation of the site itself is at that 45. And so I kept the orientation of the whole building at that 45 to allow the light to penetrate through every single wall. And so in the morning from the east, it would hit all these walls. So I kept the orientation to the lumber grid that was established. The parking was the main issue that I found out that drove the configuration of the entire site itself. And so placing it partially below ground was the best solution to still allow the proper amount of parking, obviously, but to also allow the most penetration of light down into the area. So these are the setbacks. So you can go up to 35 feet, 3 stories. You have to do 25 feet off of the residential, and then they leave a little corridor that's 5 feet for the commercial side. Pushing back the building programmatically to allow the units to form, but also to allow that light coming in. And then, since this is ADA accessible too, and then it has to be centered to allow the parking down there, this didn't meet the height restriction, and so the building raised up 3 feet to allow the allowable room down there. The commercial was all situated to the main street, making the most frontage to the street, activating the most visibility. And then these light cuts were analyzed, really driven by the program. This is residential that started to form on top. And so again, trying to let the light into these kind of bays or these canyons going down through the building. And those are 4.5 feet. So these are the different times that are activated. Here's coming down through into the commercial area. And really what started to form the actual parametrics of the building itself was this algorithm that I created. And so what it does is it comes down onto individual points within the building and it intersects those walls, ceilings, and floor plates. And so this is an example in February of the light coming into the southern unit. And so it's in divisions, 16 divisions out of 12 months, and there's 18 different points that come into the unit. So here's a concept diagram of just between 11 p.m. and 12 p.m. of it extruding out these holes coming into the building. And so what I did with that, there's the extrusions and their Boolean differences, is multiply that throughout the year, the 12 months, and this is the 12 months acting on one point in one unit. And so once you get to that step, you start adding it to the entire building, extruding out all holes, which I didn't calculate how many extrusions there are, but if you do the math, there's at least 3,456. And then if you have a point coming in the middle, it cuts through this plane and that plane, so it starts multiplying on itself. So from that, the building starts to form with these holes extruded out of the walls. And the glazing was set again off the principle of this third, going back to direct light. A third of these areas was reserved for the glazing to come into the living areas. And then the formation of the back stairways and walkways over the courtyard as you come out of parking your car and then moving up into your unit. These are vertical supports that help the framing of those walkways. And then the main framing with the purlins set in on this side as well as the west side, east side and the west side, get the framing. And so the final piece of the building is this screen mesh. And really how the screens formed was another layer of filtration, a filtration of light, but also driven from the parametrics of it. And these were derivatives of these different lighting situations. So low-level light, mid-level light, high-level light, and then the other two are more this uniform cloud layer as well as clear. And so these different bays started forming. And I started referring to them as digitizations of cloud light. And what they do is they take the tonal range of the image and then extrude out different areas. And so darker areas get less porosity, and then lighter areas get more porosity. And so what those started forming into were these different bays of cloud layers that started forming. And the individual members are individual pieces reflecting that tonal range. So this is showing high level, low level, and then this uniform cloud situation, and then a mid-level. So those are direct translations of these light scenarios in Bellingham, and really the concept is using 365 days of the year that derive into this image that then gets these different extruded members. Here's the back courtyard. So the west side gets treated with the individual walkways, and then this east side really forms the courtyard as one unified space. So you extrude out the actual walkways. So here's a view from the inside. As you transition from the parking lot up through and walking back to your unit, you move through here, and then you can really start to see the angle of the sun. And so those 16 divisions really could be multiplied into 20 to 30, and there's different iterations that I did. But extruding out the CLT, there's kind of a balance between too much extrusions of CLT, really when you just should be light framing, and then too little where you don't have enough light in here. And so that's where it came up with the 16 divisions of light. Here's a perspective. And then really what starts to form is the interior of the building, and really understanding that these places are really a different way of living almost. You're at like this solar themed. You want the light coming in at all times. And so imagining not the hearth as the fireplace, but a solar hearth as this central point that the light comes down onto, that almost serves as like this photovoltaic or this light area that takes in the light, takes in the heat, and then brings it back during the night. So the formation of the floor plan is a little bit different as well. It takes the concept of the extrusions of holes, and if you can imagine all the floor plates sandwiched together, laminated together, and then looking at all the hole systems as one unit, and you can start to derive these different areas where not walls but curtains start to segregate different areas of programming, and then the placement of the actual fixed toilet, sink, tub are in these areas where they won't affect the light coming in. So this island starts to form here. The bed's movable, so you can drag it around everywhere. It does all the movable pieces in this place. Can cover up the holes, but you probably have to sign a contract to not nail anything down. Here's the interior rendering it too. Some nice family members in there. And here's the clear sky.
Wait, can you go back?
Automatic A there. That's the first time I've ever made it into a project. So I have to wear a Viking helmet to get into somebody's project. Now I know the secret.
So this is where the clear sky area makes an appearance on the front side of the street on DuPont. So this is the commercial side. And really this rendering and this series start to try to reflect how the course of the day in Bellingham works. You know, you can have this really light sky in the morning, and then clouds just run in, start to rain, and then at night, you know, it kind of fades out, and the clouds are still there, but it stops raining. And this is the final rendering. That's what I have for you guys. Thank you.
All right, well,
Good job.
congratulations. You did it.
Thank you.
You passed.
Yay.
Thank you.
He's the first one.
Our
The first one,
Thank you so
but
much.
not the last. Okay.